record. Okay, so
boy.
I'm just going to let a few people in here. Right, here's G.
Hello.
Hello, G. How are you?
Doing well, sir. How about you?
I'm very well. I had a terrible hangover this morning, but I'm a lot better now. Yeah.
There you go.
Here she
You're ready for your second win then, Kelv?
I am. I'm honestly 4 o'clock, 4 o'clock. I'm kind of ready to go again.
So, Coops, how you doing?
Coops is here. Hello, steady.
Oh yeah, you need to hear your dog, Calvin.
Yeah, I don't, honestly, I can't drink on a school night anymore. It was bad. Norm, welcome. Hello.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Welcome. Are you in Canada by any chance?
Yes, I am. And I work very closely with Rob.
I can tell by the shirt.
Oh,
hey, I have that shirt, but I put on my Olympic shirt today.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
You're wearing the uniform of a Canadian, which is very good. Hello,
Thank
Mark.
you.
We've got someone in the pub called Norm.
We have.
Looks like Cheers.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Norm.
Thank you.
So here's Karen. Karen's come in, and Warren.
Warren's here. He's fishing with his fishing picture.
I'm just going on holiday with some guys. Can you take some professional shots to make me look good?
Yeah. If only I have my own professional photographer I could take with me everywhere, it'd be great.
Yeah. Karen, you're looking very glamorous today.
Hello.
You're looking very glamorous.
Very sorry.
I have to record some videos this afternoon. I'm not even ready for it yet, but that's okay. We'll get there.
Yeah. Wait, you're looking glamorous. You're looking like you're ready to do a pro one, so it looks good. And speaking of glamour, here's Joe Dylan. Hello.
I can see some. Look, I can see a guy there.
Someone sideways.
Yeah.
Why am I?
Yeah.
So Ray, so are you standing on the wall sideways? Or...
Am I sideways? Why am
It's got the two Joes going sideways.
That's better.
That's
It's a Joe thing, Joe.
Hey, Dylan,
I think Connor Caminolta's sideways.
We're the cool Joes.
Am I
Can we
sideways?
just check? We had some audio
you're
problems.
straight.
That's
Ray,
better.
can you hear us okay?
Yeah, I can
how's
hear
the
you
new
great.
job, Dylan?
That's good. Excellent.
Dylan's on mute. Curious to know how the new job's going.
Mm-hmm.
So just letting a few more
Yeah,
people.
there he goes.
There we go. Yeah, we had a little bit of a technical problem with Ray in his bunker there, but I think Ray's managed to get around it.
Yeah, you know.
At least she wasn't upside down. I can't do handstands.
Yeah.
Hi, Karen.
Hello. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Good.
Your hair got so long.
No, it's actually very short. It's not a good conversation right now. I had a wild woman that just had her on mind what she wanted to look like, so I'm dealing with that.
I think Warren had the same problem.
I just think it could look like this. That's what happens when you're in lockdown and you can't get your hair cut.
I know.
Lockdown. We don't do lockdowns anymore.
Yeah, we're all free now.
I was going to say, you're not locked down anymore up there, are you?
No, we've been.
No, but now I have to actually get an appointment because we have been locked down since Christmas. So, yeah.
Only if you're willing to pay.
Are you saying
my wife does mine, so I've experienced it experimented through COVID. Now it's like I'm saving all kinds of money. Get my hair cut whenever I want.
Yeah, and you only have to do the front side when you're on videos.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah. Speaking of Robert Godwin, I wonder where he is.
Yeah, there's a few more people just coming in. Quick hello to Matthew Parker and Rick who've just joined us.
Hi, everybody.
There's a couple more people coming in, but I'm really excited about today's session. So I'm gonna get go. Oh, and here we've got Herman the German's just coming in as well. So they're all coming in. So,
He's Spanish, actually.
Hey, he's full German. That's good enough for me. So,
they're all foreigners, aren't they, Calvin?
I'm looking for all the ladies.
I say the French are the worst. Anyway,
I'll leave that. I mean, I won't dignify that with a remark.
No.
It's too easy.
You're not a real Frenchman. You're an Englishman.
No, I'm an adopted one. I'm not a real one.
Yeah, you're more English than you are.
I stink of garlic though, quite often.
An Englishman in France doesn't sound as much as New York, does it?
No. Sting never wrote a song about that one, did he?
Englishman in France.
So what I'm going to do is I'm going to crack on. There's a couple more people still coming in, and they'll join us. mainly the Americans never arrive on time anyway. So
Yep, it's early over here. You know, we don't
Canadian
start till
schools
like
are here
11.
on time.
it's still early. So I'm really excited about today because I've watched a couple of Ray's joined us. We're recording the session, and I've watched a couple of Ray's videos, and they're really interesting. He addresses some of the things that some of us dare not question. So really good video sessions that Rob's introduced us to. So we've got a few Q&As with Ray. So Ray, welcome to the Crown Pub.
Great to be here.
Run through a few questions, and then we'll just ask you some questions, and we'll see where it takes us. We never know. So without further ado, so Ray, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, so my name's Ray Stashesco. I've been in the print business a little over 30 years, mainly in the business side of it, selling businesses, business print applications and equipment. I started in Tampa, Florida, selling copy machines out of the back of a van. And from there, I've owned dealerships, sold dealerships, bought back in, spent time transitioning a print-centric business to an IT services business with a friend of mine in Nashville. And over the last 6 years, I've really just been on my own as a consultant and doing the end of the day with Ray during the COVID thing, kind of took off on its own.
How did you get into print, Ray?
You know, I came out of the grocery business. So I was a grocery store manager, and I just decided I didn't want to do that anymore. I wanted to sell something. So I started selling wine, and from there, that was more route sales. I went to a recruiter, find me a job where it's commission based, where I can sell some stuff. And he sent me to Lanier Worldwide, which was a copier company back then. And the rest is kind of history. I've been in the industry ever since. It's I didn't even know what a copier was in all reality. You know, back when I was in school, we didn't use copy machines, and we didn't have the print rooms and all that crazy stuff. So it was kind of interesting to get into the business in my 30s, and just went from there. You know, it was everybody had what you were selling, which was kind of interesting. Or in some cases, they actually didn't even have them back then. So it was kind of an interesting play.
Well, the Crown Pub's a print pub. So we're on the print industry, the real print industry, not the copier business that you're in.
Yeah.
So what makes you think that you know enough about the industry? I've seen your videos; they're very, very good. But I got to challenge you. What
Sure.
makes you think you know the print industry?
I don't know anything about it. I just make this shit up and people watch it, so it works. No, I'm not a production print person. I looked at the data of production print and the business applications, and it's horrific. Volumes are extremely low. Nobody's making any money for the most part. Industrial print is kind of its own animal, and there's a lot of applications in industrial print, but in that space, if you will, when you look at the copier salespeople, if you will, or the direct operations of the manufacturers that are out selling business application print, they've tried to do production print. Most of them just dabble in it, or they oversaturated the market and they're giving the crap away for nothing. And then in the industrial side, the OEMs they're all getting excited about it, but I see it more as displacement growth. The only reason that we're able to have all these OEMs selling these, more expensive machines is because the industrial print volumes have dropped so low. I think the application for inkjet and printing on things like tiles and, making it part of a manufacturing process is really going to be a huge growth opportunity. But I don't see business print, industrial print, or even, light production print as any kind of a growth business. It's all displacement growth. Every serial number machine you put in place is going to reduce in volume for the most part. It's not going to increase.
Do you have any numbers on the percentage of like copier MFP business versus production that the OEMs carry? Like how much of a stake do they have in this business?
The problem with all the OEMs, and I do videos on their financials when they publish them, but they just lump all the crap together. Konica will separate out their production print piece, but for the most part, it's, if you look across the industry, or even in a dealership itself, it's a very low percentage of their business, probably less than 5% of their business. And, some of the OEMs are much better at doing it themselves than having a dealer do it, because some of these dealerships maturity level to go out there and sell production print, they shouldn't even be doing it. They're putting them in the wrong applications. So when you look at Xerox, who's been in this space since it was born for the most part, they're probably the most mature at it. They probably hold the most value in that production print space. They don't need to run into the account and give it to them for 0.000, whatever the hell they come up with. But, it is a very low percentage. And, without the OEMs consolidating, they're going to continue to drive that business right into the damn ground as they all continue to chase whatever's left.
Do you get on well with the OEMs? Haven't seen a couple of your videos.
Well, when I set up this platform, I wanted to do something nobody else would do. And I thought, there's enough information out there if you've been in the business for 30 years. And the things that I talk about, everybody else is talking about it. They just won't bring it to public. And most of that's based on, our industry's media and our industry's analysts they're all sponsor driven. Hell, I got my own sponsors on the end of the day with Ray. The only difference with me is if the sponsor wants to leave because I say something they don't like, I don't really care. Where if our industry, if you think about it, they're buying their own awards. They all the analysts are feeding these people tons of revenue. It's hard to be too critical of them. And they've kind of gotten a free pass. And that, that might have worked when our industry was growing. And there was, everybody does, mismanagement is easy to get away with when you're growing and you're throwing revenue and profit. But today, if you look at the OEMs, they're operating profits in the toilet. Konica is a great example. They don't make any money. And you look at, except for their industrial business. But, most of the OEMs, their operating profit's terrible. And they don't want to talk about it. So, we can all not talk about it, continue to go down a path to obsolescence, or we can try to face the reality.
Fill your boots. You just crack on. You talk about it as much as you like. I'm not listening though, by the way. I might have a legal letter turn up. Oh.
So Ray, tell us about return to the office. What do you think will happen? Will it be a decline, an increase, a leveling out, or how much of an impact will this have on the OEMs?
This is the stupidest argument that I've ever heard the OEMs talk about. It drives me out of my mind to hear senior leaders in an OEM talking about trying to figure out the percentage of workers in their home and workers in the business. It has absolutely nothing to do with print volumes in the business application. When a business decides that they're going to be remote, they're going to be remote and they're going to take their business processes so they accommodate a remote worker. Whether that's 10% of their staff or whether that's 90% of their staff, the first thing you got to do is get rid of print and scan. Those are the only two business applications that you can't physically do remote. You have to have a print, you have to have a scan. And over the last 2 years, we've saw all the business processes, all the software applications, all the enterprise businesses, they're all trying to do away with print. DocuSign had their largest increase in users, and what we're doing here on Zoom is an example. But it doesn't really matter. People are going to consume information behind glass more and more and more. They're going to consume it. They're going to get rid of it. They're going to do whatever they want with it. They can keep it behind glass. They don't need to print it.
Where have you seen the biggest drastic drop in print and a movement over towards digital? Like in what application have you witnessed where you've seen a sort of a decimation, I would call it maybe, of print in the office space?
I don't think there's anybody could say right now, oh, if you're in legal, it's all gone away. Or if you're in healthcare, it's all gone away. I think it's a process. And if we don't accept, it's not about paperless. And that's the other thing. A lot of people get all freaked out about it's a paperless and you can't comprehend being paperless. So you immediately dismiss it. It's just about a reduction in volume. If the reduction in volume is great enough and 30 or 40% of where it was before COVID, and if we hit that 30 or 40% in the year 2025 or 2026, that's devastating. That's like a nuclear bomb went off in our industry. So, you can't afford to dabble in production print. You can't afford to dabble in industrial print if you're losing all this A3 business that you've been so used to for over the years. The OEMs live off this business print. The rest of the stuff they do is just because of their business print revenue and profits. There's no OEM out there that's going to say, I'm just going to go sell industrial print. That'll be my business.
Tell us about Dubai.
And Dubai, I used to say it's not about paperless until that. So, the government of Dubai is the very first government in the world that's 100% paperless. They have no paper applications. This is, and you don't even hear about it. Think about this. The only person in our industry in the United States that ever even talked about it is me. And so, we don't even want to talk about this. We should be just consumed with this. How are they even doing it? What softwares are they using? How long did it take them to do it? Which, by the way, was less than 30 months for them to do this. And they started this initiative before COVID. They started this initiative in 2018. So, they were already on a track, and, Dubai, they're a pretty green, considering that they're the oil people. It's kind of ironic. But what was funny about that there was a videotape with a couple young gals doing like a YouTube video talking about the Dubai going paperless. And that one of them actually compared printing on paper to smoking. In other words, it's such a bad thing that we're chopping down all these trees so that we have to print. It's like smoking. And I was just like, this is insane, but that's how they think of it. I mean, the younger generations, especially in Europe, you see it more. I think you guys probably experience it more than we do here. They're very green, and they're starting to look at all these applications and all these processes that they use, and how can they be more greener? Well, not printing something is pretty green.
So I'd love to hear from Mark.
Sorry?
I'd love to hear from Mark, because you don't sell copiers. You're more in the production space. Is that right?
Well, it depends what part of the world you're talking about.
Well, not the South Pacific.
Asia Pacific, we sell lots of small office stuff and print stuff. Sorry, Ray, I'm from Fujifilm. So
okay,
it's a changing world for us in the West. And I watched your video from around a year ago when you told us what we ought to do, but you've been pretty quiet since then.
Oh, well, I was in Australia right before COVID, actually, with a Lexmark brought me over there. Fuji planned to come to the United States, I think, and they were going to try to disrupt the A3 market space. And I just don't ever see that happening. If they do that, it'll be crazy. But, I think they've rekindled a little bit with Xerox. They'll probably just keep doing that as they go into other ventures. But I'm still there. Still doing those videos, but Fuji's been a little quiet over here. They're doing some stuff in Europe, and obviously they're pretty big in the ANZ, but they haven't really done anything in the United States of any, making a big splash or anything.
No, not in the US. No, you're right.
So Ray, we're more industrial print here, and you identify as business process print. What's the difference?
Well, industrial print is high-end print where people are printing off of web sheets, and they're, maybe big, huge corporations are sending all their invoices that people still have to have mailed through there, and, things of that nature. But, business print or business processes, it impacts industrial print. If, I get a thing every single day on my email from Citi, who handles my, charge card, if you will, go paperless. Everything you do is go paperless, click here. So the more the people that go paperless and click here, the more that impacts that digital marketplace. And it's been impacted a lot.
Yeah. Right in the barrel.
Hi, Christine. We can hear you. You just mute. So, Paul, there's two Pauls in the room. There's Paul Stead and Paul Franklin. Both of them have got a lot of experience in this area. Do you identify between industrial print and business process print?
Before we do that, can I just say something slightly about the office coming back to work or not? Sorry, Ray, I work for a company called ASL, a dealer, a multi-brand dealer in the UK. They've got a big office myth of, I think it's 22,000 office copiers stroke printers in the field, which is a shit lot. And then we've got a production print division where I think we service, about 400 commercial printers. Anyway, when the pandemic kicked off, the service revenue in ASL for the office print dropped by £1 million a month. It was a shocker. It is now already back past that and past the level that it was at pre-pandemic. To the point where the guys that are selling the office printers can't keep up with the orders and can't deliver them quick enough because there's no bloody microchips. Production print, we barely blipped through the pandemic. There was probably half the customers closed down and went home. The others saw a massive increase, and the production print just kept going and going and going. And it should be, it's almost a bad thing to say publicly, but hey, we did okay out of it in the end. I don't know if that's kicking the important point, though. We are not relying on any one single OEM to help drive that model, because if we were, we wouldn't be doing very well indeed.
Yeah, no, the OEMs are struggling delivering. You know, you just got to, I think the bigger dealers in the marketplace here, even here in the United States, if you're picking up BIF because some of the other dealers went out of business, number one, which that's happened all over the world. And if you're picking up, you know, new serial numbers and putting them into the marketplace, and that's where some of that growth is coming from. But I would challenge to look at the actual serial numbers pre-pandemic to now, and what's the volume there? Because a lot of the bigger dealers were, you know, they did really well, you know, going out and filling up the market with new machines. But I can test every machine we sell today, it's going to print less the next day. It's never going to print more. And if you pick up volume from people that are going away or going out of business, that's just displacement volume. But again, it's still going to decline. I don't think anybody on this call would believe that print's going to grow past where it was pandemic based on a serial number, based on a device. A business that sells print might grow because they go out and grab more market share from people that are either exiting the market or they were bought out, if you will. That's like the private equity in the United States. They'll brag about how they grew when they went out and bought all their growth. Well, they didn't grow. They bought a bunch of growth, and everything they bought's going to decline the next day after. So, you know, I think sometimes that's why I can't, you know, stand the way the OEMs and a lot of these mega dealers present their numbers, because you really don't know. You know, if they said our existing base, here's where it was and here's where it is, this is what we added in new MIF, if you will, and this is the volume of that new MIF. But, you know, we're so eager to look for where the shining star is that we're not paying attention to what we probably need to be paying attention to sometimes. But if you have the money and you have a big organization and you have the ability to go into your marketplace and, you know, crush your competition, now's the time to do it. But at the same time, you know, you have to figure out what else you're going to put in those offices as print continues to decline.
Paul Franklin, I mean, are you allowed to comment on this? Because I imagine you must have a view.
Hi, Ray.
Background.
Hi, Ray. Yeah, I will, Cav, if that's okay. So, Ray, 10 years at Konica, all in the UK, working with various teams, etc. Industrial print as well. So, saw the KM1 come to market in the UK, the only one that got sold, and still the only one that's been sold. It's great we're talking about OEMs. I've got a question for you. Do you see consolidation and acquisition and mergers happening at the top end with the OEMs? Because there's all sorts of talk that the share price is falling through the floor with one or two of the major guys out there. Do you think people are going to gobble up each other's myth and machines and client base? Because I think that's the only way they're going to survive. The numbers. Well,
you know, today I'm going to do a video on Toshiba Tech. So Toshiba just decided Toshiba Tech is worthless. They want to get rid of it. That's almost what they said in the article. So I'll share that story today. But what was interesting about, I don't know, 2 weeks ago, I did a video and I researched a little bit of what's going on with the OEMs. Ricoh has a 19% ownership through a private equity activist, just like Carl Icahn. I had no idea that until I researched it, which I thought was very interesting. That, I think his name is Barakam or something. And that same individual owns 9% of Toshiba Tech. The stockholders in Toshiba Tech, some of them, you know, the radical ones, they believe the only way that Toshiba is going to clean themselves up is if private equity gets in there and does it for them. And I'm almost convinced that's where we're at. The OEMs are not going to do anything. They've spent the last 2 years doing nothing. You know, in the United States, you got Konica out there buying, running their direct operations, getting rid of 20 or 30 of them, but they still want to run them and they shouldn't be doing any of that. They're not making any money. And you got, what are we doing? You got all these OEMs in a declining marketplace. And, you know, here's a question I asked all of them. Why is it that our industry, during the world's largest supply crisis, I mean, our supply chain, this is the world's worst crisis in the world's history, okay, especially in modern times. And our industry is the only one that's able to lower their price as they deliver stuff into the market, and they're delivering stuff into the market they can't even deliver. We're out there creating a false demand by selling people stuff that we can't even deliver, hoping they'll wait for us to deliver it as they sign these. It's just absurd. And
Oh, I
you know,
agree.
and now you got Canon over there. You know, they were just made an announcement where okay, you don't have to have. Here's how you can bypass using non-OEM toner in your machines because we don't have any chips. So they basically just told the whole world, okay, it's okay to use non-OEM toner when we're in a crisis. When this thing's over, we're going to sue the crap out of these people that put it in those copiers. I mean, none of it makes any damn sense. But I believe with these, I'm on the side of these people that are the stockholders of Toshiba. I believe the only way we're going to fix the OEM problem is for private equity to get in there and raise some hell. Just like we saw with Carl Icahn and Xerox, and good, bad, or ugly, it had to be done. And they're actually making an operating profit. They're not knocking it out of the park, but they're making an operating profit. They're beating all the rest of the OEMs.
Yeah.
So if you look at Ricoh and Toshiba and Sharp and we don't need all this. And that's why I said, when Fuji was talking about coming to the United States, I think that was pre-pandemic. They were so mad at Xerox. Let's go kick them. Let's go kick their butt. And, that would have been as crazy as HP saying they're going to disrupt the A3 marketplace. And they've never done any of that. They just disrupted, made a mess out of the marketplace.
So Paul's point then, Ray, that, not having one OEM as a main supplier, having a multi-vendor approach is probably the way forward because it's just too volatile. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. You better be careful who your OEMs are, and you better align this is why I like Xerox to a degree, because I don't see them as an OEM at all. And a lot of people see Xerox as an OEM, but they're the largest marketing company in the world.
Yeah.
They're a $7 billion dealer, if you will, that sells things other people make. And if you look at what they've done over these last 2 years, they're not out there. People think they're going to go buy somebody. They're going to buy anybody. What the hell do they want to be a manufacturer for? Yeah. They want to distribute products into the marketplace that other people make. I think they're just waiting for the other people to figure out what the hell they're going to do and who's going to come together. And, it should happen, though. I mean, there's just no way they can continue to do this. The worst thing we're going to do is the boats are all going to get unloaded from all these machines they've been making. They're going to pop the chips in, and we're going to have such a surplus of supply versus a really low demand, and they're going to give this crap away. It'd be absurd.
We're already seeing this. We're seeing this. The capital finance companies who are consolidating the print management sector. We're already seeing that happening. I thought it was already happening because Fuji, Xerox. I never quite know. I thought Fuji owned part of Xerox, or Xerox owned part of Fuji. Well,
they did. They separated their ways, and and it was just they had a bad time. They wanted to buy them all the way out. And, Carl Icahn stopped it, but HP should have sold to them. They should have let Xerox run that company. HP without their print business is nothing. They're a commodity house that's losing their ass on their print business keeps declining, and the only growth they're having is in their notebook business, which has zero annuity. It's just a whole bunch of revenue with no profit. So it'll be interesting to see how they play out too.
You're quite bold when you call out the OEMs, and quite rightly so. You're brave enough to do it. But you're quite bold. Is there any backlash from the OEMs? Do they come? They come back at you for talking about their financials and so forth.
Well, what are they going to do? I mean, anybody can read it. I'm just the one with the video that says here, I'm just showing their stuff. I mean, some of them get upset or they'll call people up and scream at them. Some of them will go on my website, look at every one of my sponsors and, try to get a hold of them and say, why are you supporting this guy? He's talking bad about us. And, my answer's always been the same. Well, tell me where I'm wrong. They can do a video just like I can. But instead, they'll go on video or they'll write an article, say how they're kicking butt or they're knocking it out of the park. Well, that doesn't really solve any problems when you're looking for numbers. The OEMs have gotten a free pass for so long that they honestly believe that they control the whole marketplace. And in all reality, it's these independent businesses out there that have made the OEMs what they are. Without that distribution, they wouldn't be anything. And, most of their direct distribution, if you think about it, is they give it away. They're out there beating their own dealers and in a declining marketplace. It's just nutty. So what I hope out of all this is when I do talk about this, it just drives further conversations. I'm not saying I got all the answers, but I'm hoping that people will hear what I'm saying and then maybe they'll go ask their OEM. What's Ray talking about? Is he right? If they want to lie to him, they can lie to him or they can start telling the truth. But, there was a time when the dealers and the independent companies could really hold the OEMs accountable, and they did. They stood together as a group, and they would battle the OEMs. And today, I think most of them have just given up. Whatever the OEMs want us to do, that's what we're going to do. as we see with HP and this crazy Amplify agreement they're doing.
Allstead, this is your market. Would you agree with that? Surely you're the channel, you're the sales arm of the OEMs.
I was just thinking about a question that I wanted to ask. Sorry, no, sorry, walking past me. I was just actually thinking about a question I wanted to ask, which is actually slightly different, if you don't mind, Ray. And it's how do you see the behaviour and the philosophy within these different OEMs? Because for me, at grassroots, I think they're all a bunch of shysters. I wouldn't trust any of them as far as I could spit. And frankly, the time that I spend with them makes me nauseous, without exception. Having said all that, I shouldn't say without exception. Different people are different things, but it seems to be top down. It seems to be a top down vileness towards the world and anybody that doesn't promote their product at any given time. Am I wrong, or am I just a little bit? Should I just say what I think and get off the fence?
Well, you're passionate about what you're doing. Here's the reality: the OEMs are fighting for their lives, and they're too weak to make the changes they need to make. You know, Japanese conglomerates, they'll watch the thing just fade into oblivion before they'll actually go in there and make decisions. Like, and this is why these shareholders are saying we need to have private equity go in there, because they're the only one with the guts to go do it. I mean, you know, why do you think the Japanese put Americans in charge over in Japan, and they take the English guy and put him in charge over in Europe? Because they could fire him.
That didn't work very well with Olympus, though, did it?
Yeah, pretty much. But you know, that's what they won't make these decisions. I mean, any business person at all that look at this business and say, how do you lose money, keep losing money, blaming it on COVID and blaming it on the chip shortage? It doesn't really matter. You got to make money or you don't have a business. And they built these conglomerates. You know, you got Konica with this, you know, industry business around their lenses, and it's very profitable. If it wasn't for that, they'd be an insolvent company. And, you know, and then you got their healthcare business, which is appearances. It looks like, hey, that could be a great business, but it struggles to make a profit. And so, you know, who's in charge, you wonder? I mean, if an independent business ran like that, it would have some issues. Let's just hope it all works out. Just keep, you know, giving stuff away out in the marketplace. And they're, you know, they were trying to buy their market share for some reason against the people that were out there selling their products. And I think it boils down to they have to get some leadership in there that's willing to make the changes. And it just doesn't appear that they have the ability to do that.
Yeah. Gee, you've just raised a good question in the chat. Do you want to just ask Ray?
Well, yeah, I mean, there's all this talk about from the digital side, but I was really a question on the more, let's call it, traditional print side for the established manufacturers from some time ago. So it was just interesting, Ray, on your thoughts on the manufacturers like, you know, Heidelberg, Koenig & Bauer, Komori, Goss, those sort of guys.
I don't really know enough about that space to even talk about it, to be honest with you. You know, that's industrial print by world, but you know, I just don't know enough about it. I haven't studied enough about it. The people that I know that had print shops that were, you know, vibrant, just, you know, booming print shops, they're all in decline. They all had some of this really high end gear that they were able to now replace with, you know, Ricoh's got a web press out there, and you know, they're looking at the thing that Konica has now. So they're able to get equipment for much less money than what they used to have to invest and dig trenches in the floor and all the crap that went with that. So a lot of that equipment, because of the volume dropping, you know, I think everybody got excited about industrial and production print, and the OEMs, they're 7 years, you know, they try to be 7 years ahead of time. So they started all this crap 7 years ago. And now they're in a market, COVID impacted. So they're all just there. What are they going to do? They've spent all this money on all this development and R&D. But I still think the growth is going to be inkjet going on things besides paper. That's where the growth's going to be.
That's music to your ears, isn't it, Mark Stevenson?
Yeah, it's a growing area for us. I'm sort of smiling to myself because our Japanese company hasn't really been run in a Japanese way. We had a guy at the top who decided, you know, we had to get into pharmaceuticals and life sciences and healthcare to make up for the photo business, and it worked. So, you know, we're probably a bit of an exception. But what I'm interested in, Ray, is how does all this affect the person who's doing the printing or who's buying the print? You know, all this turmoil in the OEM market, is of interest to other OEMs and dealers, but what about the people who are buying print? What about the people who are producing print? What's the end outcome for them? Is it good because people are giving away kit, or is it bad because they're taking value out the market?
Well, it's a good question. I mean, in all reality, if you think about the buyer, there's nothing better to be a buyer in a marketplace where people are fighting for your business. I mean, if you got a limited supply, you're right. This is why we need a limited supply. We could actually raise our prices. People can make money. So, if the OEMs are, their whole goal is to put a box out in the marketplace and they don't even care if they make any money, the buyer can take advantage of that. The problem with that is the buyers are going to find themselves in a pinch when they find out they don't have the support because the OEMs can't afford to pay the people, or they're trying to take people from a dying part of their business and move them into the industrial part of their business. So, but I would be, you have to be cautious. I would, in industrial print, I think that the buyers are a hell of a lot smarter than the people selling it to them, to be quite honest with you, in most cases.
Yeah, I'll give you that.
Yeah, we've lost those talented, really people that really understood that industrial print space. I don't think they're around that much anymore. I mean, our industry's old. I mean, if you think about our industry, even the sales reps, someone asked me the other day, do you think the sales reps are going to leave our industry through COVID? And I said, well, the good ones already left. And, and I don't be sarcastically about that, but, if you're young, a 25, 30-year-old sales rep inside of our space today, and you can't get equipment, and you're looking at print and you're thinking to yourself, is there anything else besides this that we're going to do? Is this company I'm working for? Can we go into IT services? Can we go into a broader deliverable? I might stay, but most of the sales reps in the business side of this are in their 50s. Why would they leave? Let me just, they're taking orders, they're refreshing their myth on a continuous basis. This has probably been the toughest 2 years of their life, but I don't think they're willing to jump ship.
So what made you get out of sales? Did you lose faith in the industry?
No, I love the industry because, I can see how it can transition. Spending 2 years with a traditional copier business, a business copier business that we turned into an IT services company. Today, that individual, it was a small little copier dealership in Nashville, Tennessee, but he's got 80 customers in a $10.8 million a year business with a really strong EBITDA, and he doesn't even sell print anymore. And so, the IT sector doesn't really care about print, which is its own threat to the industry. And we've been overselling the industry. The industry oversells. In your space or industrial space, they're probably selling what people actually use. In the business space, we overspec and oversell. We've been doing that for the last 15 years. Why are we even selling A3 equipment? For the most part, that's like 1% of the applications are probably A3. They could all be A4, but we made it harder to sell A4 than we did A3. The OEMs don't want us to sell A4 because they make their money by selling A3. So we continue to do things that are against the reality of the market in a declining market. It's a danger. That's the greatest danger.
Joanne, you had a good question. Do we just put that to Ray?
Yeah. Hey, Ray. So I spent a lot of my career in the software side of things, but I've also worked for the likes of companies like Compaq and Ricoh, who, through mergers and acquisitions. So my question to you is, if it looks like some of the OEM players may be either merging, fusing, going away, what's going to become the loss leader? Is software going to be the driver to purchasing hardware, or is hardware going to continue to use software as the loss leader? Buy this and we'll throw in your MIS, as opposed to you want this MIS, well, you need this equipment for it to run best. Do you see that shift happening at all?
Yeah, I think business processes will win, and it will not be from our industry. So when I say I'm talking about the B2B company that goes out there and sells a copy machine, supplies it, and services it. It's almost like if you look at the Blockbuster business model. Blockbuster was the big gorilla, but you also had local business entrepreneurs that might have owned 5 or 6 video stores, and it got to a certain point where the video stores they owned were worthless. It was real estate. Nobody was buying that business. And, you know, if you look, and I see print that way, business print that way. So you'll have applications that will drive behaviors, and from those behaviors, they'll decide what equipment they want. And, you know, here's a great example. You know, my friends at Xerox send me a 40-page a minute color MFP. It's an A4 machine. It's 40 pages a minute, full color. It's a damn nice machine. It took me 5 minutes to set it up. And all I had to do was pull the blue tape off, plug it in, and I'm ready to go. So, you know, when you think about that, that's where businesses will be. They're not going to need some salesperson going in there, prematurely upgrading a 5-year lease, 2.5, 3 years into it, rolling a buyout on top of another one so they could buy another machine they're not going to use. And we are going to have a big shift, and the software players have a big role in it, but and enterprise accounts, you know, who's going to be the nationwide service provider of print equipment? You know, you see with Xerox with this Care AR, this augmented reality platform, will end users participate in some of their own maintenance? I believe they will if it's augmented reality. And, you know, there's only a couple of things for them to do. So it's going to change. And I software will change all the processes.
Well, it already is.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, look at how many businesses are out there using web to print and then outsourcing all of it. And it's an opportunity to do, it's either a side hustle or secondary income, or it becomes their main source focused on whatever that niche is. So that should make Kelvin really happy. But
very happy, very happy.
Well, it'll be interesting to, someone's trying to call me in the middle of this. Let's see. I think I just let it go. I don't know how to do that. I lost all your faces. I'm looking at this person trying to call me.
We've lost your face.
Technology.
Well, last time I hung up on the call, so I'm like, guys, I'll just hang up. But anyway, so I forgot where we were. You know, the biggest threat to the industry, you know, and I've talked about this before. If you look at the rent-a-car business, you know, the rent-a-car business went away because of the rideshare platform. And it basically destroyed Hertz. It destroyed the rent-a-car business because, you know, 80-90% of the revenue to the rent-a-car business came from business travel. The number one expense on any company in the world is rideshare. Not dollar-wise, but the amount of hits. So, but if you think about it, they still had people that wanted to rent a car when their car broke or was in an accident. They still had people that rented the car to go see grandma during the holidays, the SUV. But when they lost the business traveler, they couldn't live off the fringes. And I see our industry the same way. When we lose that A's-free, overspeccing, overselling, prematurely upgrading leases, things that the entire industry's been doing for the last 20 years, and we don't have the ability to do that anymore and drive those big dollar revenues and profits, we're not going to be able to live off the fringes. So the OEMs have to figure out, how are we going to live off the fringes? Or innovation's going to have to figure out, how do we take production and do something totally different with it? It's our business model. We're going to charge forward. And, you know, living off the fringes isn't going to work because we're going to lose the business traveler, or we're going to lose that customer that represents 80%, 90% of our entire industry. To me, that's the scary part, where no one's paying attention to it.
So Ray, how do you think the pandemic has affected the print industry? What's your view on this when you're looking at the financials of the big OEM players? You know,
the pandemic has done one thing that when we had the crisis in 2009, the financial crisis, it was vertical. It was around real estate and banks. We were still able to go sell stuff to a degree, and we were still servicing our base, and our customers weren't paying attention to print. What happened with the pandemic is, for the very first time in our industry's history, our customers now have an awareness, and they're starting to question, what the hell am I doing this for? Why do I need this equipment? Why do I need this guy coming in here every 3 years and upgrading me? What am I doing? What's wrong with the stuff I have? I want to move to the cloud. I want to do all these other things. I'm changing my business processes. I don't need print. And so, the other thing that was interesting about our industry is that for the last 20, 30 years, everybody in our industry told the buyer the exact same thing. The only difference in the talk track was who was going to be cheaper. Let's just be honest. So, but we were all telling them the same thing in the business world. You're going to buy this machine. You're going to put it on a 5-year lease. You're going to have a service contract. It's going to include toner, all parts, all labor. We all sold the same way. What the pandemic did is gave an awareness to the end user. Well, but we gave awareness to the end user for the very first time. You better start questioning these copier people. And at the same time, we gave awareness to the innovators, to the software developers. They're going to start looking at the print business, and sooner or later, they're going to attack it. They're going to say, hey, wait a second, there's a lot of money sitting here in print devices. What do you even need this shit for? Why are you on an MPS contract? What does this even mean? You know, the bottom line is, and you can do your own research, but print represents about 1.5% of a total technology spend of a company, unless it's a vertical. I mean, if you go to a print company that's printing for pay, that's a different scenario. But and you look at the business applications today and you add up all the technology spend around in the office, your ISP, your telephony, your software, your licenses, print's going to be about 1.5% of that. Who the hell wants to manage 1.5% of their technology spend? They're not going to care. Our industry is the one that ran around telling them they're going to save 30% on print and all this crazy nonsense. And we'll run out and fix your printer when it breaks. And when the whole world was doing it by themselves forever, we created this animal that wasn't very profitable. Number one, it was in the heyday, but today it's not.
Yeah. Just bringing a couple of things together here, and I'm interested what other people's views are on this. But you've mentioned a couple of times about the younger generation not wanting to print so much, moving into the cloud, things become more cloud aware. However, in the industrial print, the production print environment that a lot of us are quite entrenched in, I mean, and some of us touch different parts of your market, the business process print, but we're seeing Generation X and Y starting to appreciate print. So Dylan, and Braden, you know, the younger members of the audience, they've actually been here, and we've discussed about quality products, how tactile and how good print is if it's in the right way. The iPhone case, one example, everyone keeps their iPhone case, even their phone's a load of crap, you know, Apple. You know, so maybe in our sector, maybe we are not as touched, not as heavily influenced by the negatives of the young generation not wanting to use print. Maybe within the industrial print area, print, it does have a value add. It is a proposition you can take to market, and it adds to a product. You know, it's more tactile, it's better. Do you think there's room for that? Do you think I'm going down the right path there? Would you agree with that?
Well, I mean, if it depends what you're printing it on. If you're printing on an iPhone cover application, that makes sense to me. If people aren't going to consume print like they used to, you're not going to have a poster hanging on a wall somewhere announcing a concert, because they're getting all that information rifle focused right to them. They're probably going to get it through their Google glasses or whatever the hell they're going to wear in the next 10 years. But when you're looking at printing on I want a cover for my notebook and I want it to be pretty cool looking, I want some kind of, you know, abstract design. Yeah, I'll pay for that stuff, but I don't see print. I think that we're so desperate to find all these crazy applications or a hope that everybody wants to read something on a sheet of paper, that I don't think we see the forest for the trees. But the printing on things besides paper is growth. And, you know, but when you think about what you can do behind glass today, it's pretty phenomenal. And if you throw in augmented reality on top of that, it's pretty phenomenal. If you look at how we can mine data and rifle focus advertisement and keep it behind glass, it's very valuable.
Well, I've brought this up before, like you just mentioned augmented reality. Like, I think that a big opportunity that we haven't seen explored yet is print, where there's a QR code or some sort of interactive feature on packaging or a sheet, and then the augmented reality is able to identify it from there. And then you've got your interaction behind the glass.
Yep. And we see a lot of that. You know, that's something that Xerox has been working on pretty heavily with that Care AR platform they have. But, you know, you're right. I mean, would you rather have this thing come to life in front of you? I mean, to me, especially the younger generation. But the fact that we can rifle focus advertisement like we've never been able to do before. And quite honestly, I think it's more the older generation that's obsessed with people having their data. I don't think the younger generation gives a flying crap about it, to be honest with you. And the younger they get, they're going to care less because there's so much of it. But if they can get stuff that they welcome, you know, the day that we can get advertising that we actually are welcoming, that's a pretty big home run.
And just staying on this subject, because it's quite interesting. I'm wondering now it's more geographical, because here in the UK and some parts of Europe, we have a good postal system. And direct mail, and I think Joanne put it in there, you know, DM has been a growth area here, you know, the cards, greeting cards, those kind of companies are spanking it over here financially because they're buying presses and they're doing more work. And then, G, you've just put something there about a campaign that was an internet company that went digital.
Yeah, they eschew digital, and they are well. It doesn't take a a genius to work out who I'm talking about, but it was a huge project. It was a publication, a printed publication that went out in 20-something languages, and it was targeting a very specific demographic, and they chose to do it ink on paper or toner on paper print rather than anything digital, because they felt it had a greater stickiness effect, if you like. It's harder to throw away something well packaged and well presented in a physical form than to do it digitally. Fortunately, they didn't repeat it, so maybe it didn't work out very well.
Well, if you think about it this way, if what the advertiser wants is a response, that's all they want. And so years ago, when you did a mass mailing, like if the veterans wanted to get donations, they'd send out 10 million, postcards. But today, because they have such good data, they only have to send out 1 million, and they'll get more money from when they send out 10. But what they're starting to realize is the data is so good now that I can rifle focus and send it to 100,000, and I'll probably get the same money. And so if the advertisers presented a case where you could print all you want, but I'll send this thing to this many people, this is how we're going to do it, and they're going to respond to you. At the end of the day, I just want the result. I could care less if someone likes print and they want to open up a letter. I don't really care. I just care that I want to get my money or what I'm trying to get my outcome. And I think that the danger that we see is that the way we market people is so accurate that if you're a print house and you're going to sell out you want to sell out printed media, you could still make a really nice, compelling argument because you have really good lists. I mean, everybody has great lists. Those lists gets better every day. And so you could share something with a customer and says, hey, look at this is what the end users are going to get. Our response rates are really good. Go for it. But because the data is getting so good, eventually they're not going to print it, in my world, not for advertising purposes.
No, I disagree, actually. I think it totally depends on the customer. The channel of execution is secondary, to be honest. Right? I mean, this very large company chose print, not because they're, waving the print flag or anything else, but they chose it like a channel, just like they would choose social, or they would choose postcards, or they would choose digital, or they would choose, I don't know, flying a plane in the sky with a flag hanging out the back. It's choosing the right vehicle for communication depending on your target audience expectations. And if that's print, that's print. It's not like there's a digital replacement for print in every use case. That's clearly not the case.
I would agree.
It's horses for courses. It's finding the right channel of communication for everything. I mean, it's just like in my world, in the digital marketing world, everybody thinks that without even looking at a strategic execution, they go, okay, where's Facebook ads or it's Google ads, and that's it. And they're very blinkered in their approach, rather than actually taking the time to understand the customer expectations, preferences, and where they expect to see the communication for that brand, and then targeting the channel accordingly.
I would
say it's the same thing with print.
No, I agree.
It's a smaller piece of a shrinking pie, without a doubt.
That's the problem. The problem is that people could want to do print, but when print becomes this, okay, I'm going to pay how much for this versus how much for this. So we're price driven. We're a price driven world. So unless there's some substantial data that says, oh, wait a second, if we do it in print, we're going to do this versus this. So we're coming from a world that was all print. So think about it. I mean, in a very short time.
And it's a difference between efficiency and effectiveness, right? So if you're just doing it for efficiency purposes, that's one argument. But if you're doing it for effective purposes, that's a different argument.
Yep. And then if you have a consolidation of OEMs, if you have a consolidation of the people that actually can participate in the printed media, and then your price, how do you adjust the price versus the new world? I mean, that's so there'll always be a place for
but
print,
it's not an issue
always.
of price. Now, you guys have talked about it too much in terms of the issue of being priced, that print is too expensive. Print is inefficient for a lot of the ways that communication can be handled now. So it's irrelevant in a lot of channels. It's effective in other channels, but saying that things like direct mail are, booming, that's bullshit. I mean, think of the days when there was something called freestanding inserts inside your newspaper. Oh, wait, let's think about newspapers. Those things are going away. It's just not an efficient way to target people, as you have used the term rifle accuracy on the advertising, targeting your segments and things. That's all done much more efficiently with digital. The value of print is finding where it's going to continue to exist and where it's still effective. And its dependency on those creative usages of it. Let's point to the Apple box. It's a great creative use of a container that adds a lot of expense and time to a product release, but it has a value to people. So the perception of value is the fact that where print will succeed, not the perception of cost.
Well, I agree with that. I agree with what you're saying. The problem is we're able to do all of these things because the OEMs have all this other money. We're not, without all this other money, a lot of this stuff's not going to happen. We're not going to have the ability to have, 10 OEMs in the field all trying to sell industrial print equipment.
But that industrial print equipment are like the vegetables I had to remove from my refrigerator because they were sitting around for too long. I had to cook them while they were still good. There's still a lot of stuff sitting around, a lot of money invested in that. Can they afford to just shutter the business and say that it's there? If it's not making money, why don't they do that? What is the point? They're making money somehow, somewhere, for some reason, or they're using it as some way to offset the profits in the other areas. But if it isn't making money, any company, especially a public one, is going to dump that. They're going to shutter it. They're going to sell it off to somebody who can, live off of, doing the parts for the existing machines that are still in use. It just doesn't make business sense, frankly, for a lot of the things that have been discussed here in the short time that I've been able to attend, that say that there's some life that might exist. It's not going away because people are bad. It's going away because it's irrelevant.
You're right. You're right. But as far as the OEMs doing things that don't make money, let's look at their financials. They're not all in good shape. And they've been that way for a long time.
This has been enlightening for me because I'm probably too much in production print, and you're in a much area, big business process print. But I think there's a lot of life left in production print. I really do believe that, and I'm a software guy. I sell software, that supports the industry. But it's been enlightening to know there's another part of the industry, and
wait a minute, Kelvin, hold on a second. You're producing a system that houses creative assets. Are all of those assets strictly used for print? Aren't some of them repurposed into digital? So you're distributing digital content for digital usage. Am I wrong on that?
No, you're not wrong. You're 100% right.
Okay, so you're positioned pretty damn well. If print went away, but there were still advertising with creative content, it might affect you somewhat, but that depends if your customers are smart enough to pivot.
I'm clearly not complaining of where the market is at the moment, because it's a good time to be in web to print, as you know. And a lot of what we do is going down the reprographics route as well. And that's a good market to be in.
Print isn't going away. Print isn't going away, and it's foolhardy to think it is. It's simply changing and adapting like it always does. Over the last 18 months, I've seen lots of interviews with government people and health specialist people and health clever people, all on the TV. And behind them, they've all got one thing in common. Does everyone know what that is? Dirty, great big bookcase. How many of you in the last 2 years?
What? Can you repeat that in English?
Bookcase.
A bookcase. How many of you in the last 2 years, you've got a filthy mind, Gore? How many of you in the last 2 years didn't pick up a book and read it, or didn't pick up a dozen or so books and read them? And the book industry should be in decline because there's a Kindle and you can read it online. Nonsense. The book industry is having a flourish. The packaging industry is having a flourish because we can't go to the shops and get everything delivered. Will that change? Yes, of course it will change, but it's not a disappearance, it's just an adaptation. Things will move round and round, and the print industry, if it's got one real major strength in it, it's very, very adaptable.
Well, you have to, if you can make money on the decline, number one. If you move from a higher volume type machine to a lower volume type machine that's a third of the cost, you just have to, you're right, you have to adapt. The reality of it is that an industry that's built on overselling and overspeccing in the business world, to change to that different model is probably not going to happen. Doesn't mean it won't happen. It'll just happen from innovation or people coming in and changing the game. But the way people consume information is more and more behind glass every single day in all aspects.
But one thing you're right about, Ray, is that the volume of items printed or clicks or pages or whatever is going to continue to go down. But the truth of it is, especially in production print or industrial print, is the value of each item that you print is going to go up. Mm-hmm. And so you're getting more value in each sheet that you're printing because it has a use for somebody. It brings something to that person.
If you price by the sheet, if you do everything by the sheet, piecemeal. But that's where that's the road to hell. That's what dropped the prices on everything anyway. I can print this sheet cheaper than you. It's the value of the job. Come on,
but it's not. No, I disagree, Robert. It's about printers selling the value in that sheet, and saying, I'm going to make something for you, Mr. or Mrs. Customer, that is going to bring you value. Whether that's a direct mail piece, whether it's a book, whether it's a poster on the wall, or whatever it is, you've got to build value into that only print can bring, and that's where it scores. When it comes to office stuff and printing forms, it's dead. When it's printing memos, when it's printing reports that you need to leave on your boss's desk, that's all dying away, and it's going to continue to do so. Mm-hmm. That's me shutting up now. Thank you.
Neil?
Just one last thought. We're all assuming that the digital companies and people that hold data aren't going to start charging a fortune for this digital market and actually start making money out of this digital market, which at the moment people don't do print because it's cheaper to do a digital marketing campaign because of data and what's easy to produce and whatever. But what about if the market suddenly goes, hang on, we can start making serious money on this digital market. We've got the data, we've got the control. Let's start charging massive amount for it, which might flip the whole world back to actually it's cheaper to print something and mail it through a door.
Well, Amazon does.
It's already happening.
Well, the value of the digital marketplace is so phenomenal and it's so rifle focused. It's so much better and it's live right now.
And trackable and reportable and ROIs are achievable and
because
provable.
But then they start charging for that benefit.
So they will. But so you got to remember, in the digital world, it's not, I'm not going to charge the user. I'm charging the people that want the user. And if I can get that user, think about this, I wrote an article about this one time, but if Facebook played the Super Bowl, let's just say that they went out and bought the rights to play the Super Bowl, they could literally raise about $1 billion in advertising because they could send local advertisers advertising on the Super Bowl to a specific zip code, to a specific user based on a specific product. And they could do all that in live time. And the end users, when they start welcoming this information because it's so rifle focused to them, the value of that will be tremendous. They won't care. They're not going to say, okay, I want to, they're going to charge me $10,000 for this campaign, going back to what the other gentleman says, because it's going to be a price per campaign. It's not going to be a price per sheet or mailing and all this other stuff. Yeah. Versus I can go over here and go to my local print shop and hire these people to go out and do a mailer. It's not even it's not even a conversation. They're not even going to be involved in the conversation at that point. The print will be a rifle focused contribution maybe to a package, but digital's not going to lose. It's only going to get better, and it's going to get better because of the data. And the better the data is, the more welcome it is.
Yeah, I totally agree. There's been some messaging in the chat to go along with that. Listen, Ray, an hour's gone so quickly. You've been amazing. Thank you so much for joining us today. It was brilliant. It was insightful. You know, I've picked up loads of notes for there. For those of you who don't know, the Super Bowl is a game they play in America and nowhere else. It's like rugby with crash helmets. You know, real men play rugby, Americans play Super Bowl. It just works for them.
Just take a look at the dollars. Take a look at the dollars that it generates.
Do we still
What
even
else
have
does
the Grey
that?
Cup? Does the Grey Cup still exist?
The what, sorry?
Does anybody know? Any
what?
Canadians? Rob, is there still a Grey Cup? That's
It
our
does,
version of
but
the Super Bowl.
it's not worth mentioning.
Exactly.
Grey Cup.
If anybody wants to see a real sport, the Six Nations is being played at the moment on this weekend with rugby. So
3.5 million for a 30-second spot.
we are back
Nowhere
next
else
week.
can you get that sort of money.
Yeah.
We are back with one country, with one sport, isn't it? It's not really global, is it? We're back next week. We're not talking about rugby. We're talking Joanne, you're in charge. So the Crown Pub's from Canada. What are you talking about?
We're talking
Truckers.
about generational misconceptions in the workforce, and I will be joined by Braden, and we're going to be talking about what people think about Gen Zs and millennials and Gen Xs and baby boomers, and does it make sense? Should we be thinking this way? How should we be thinking?
I look
Good.
forward to that. I don't think it's going to be as good as Ray, because Ray's been amazing today. Ray, thank you.
No, I'm coming on
Joanne,
that one. I want to hear that.
The gauntlet's been thrown.
Robert, I would
Great
love to
interaction,
hear your
guys.
contributions. We are looking, you are the catalyst for all of this. So
Can I just say, can I just
I
say,
am Generation X, Y, and Z, just so you know.
Generation A.
And that, Robert, is exactly the problem why these things do not exist as marketing segments. But I'll save my comments for next week.
I think, G, you will appreciate what we bring to the table next week.
One final
can't
thing.
wait.
One final thing. We're not as brave as Ray sitting in the bunker wherever he is, the secret location. Any views expressed in the pub are the views of the person. We don't accept any liability. And don't send us any crappy emails. And you know, some of us are under NDAs with certain places. So
Ray, that's a compliment, because that's the first time he's ever said that on any sessions.
Well, you know.
Definitely a compliment. Ray, you're a braver man than me. Listen, thank you again so much. Can't thank you enough. Everyone, take care, be safe. We're back next week.
See you next week.
Follow us, the link on LinkedIn, the Crown Pub. It's there, it's
All right.
free. We've got no sponsors. We do it because we like everybody. We want to make sure everybody's safe and talk about print.
All right.
Oh, we
See you
love
on the
you
end of
too,
the day with
Calvin.
Ray. Bye-bye.
Ciao.
Take care.
Bye.
Spread the
Thanks,
message
Ray.
Bye,
about
everyone.
Ray. Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.